So I'm making this video because I feel like this is the best way to explain what's been going on. I've been stuck on this Udacity C++ project, the system monitor, for a very long time, and I'm realizing that the support team, the review team, and the product team are completely disconnected. And basically what's been going on is, as I'm sure some of you already know, Udacity has gone through several technical issues and outages. More recently, what happened is that the after they fixed the outage, the enable GPU button is gone from my workspace. So that usually wouldn't be a problem, but the problem is that I actually can't build my code. And the reason I can't build my code is because I believe that my instance is constantly stuck in GPU mode. And I know this because I'm able to open the desktop. I'm able to use GPU mode indefinitely. So therefore, and I remember that when GPU mode is enabled, we can't build our project. So before we even lost the enable GPU option, I've actually asked about this because I was curious, why would I have to disable GPU to build a project? So I actually asked a question here: enable GPU prevents me from building the project. So just out of curiosity, just wondering, why do I have to disable it? I don't really get an answer to my question. I'm told instead, don't enable GUI except you want to enter the remote computer to run the project from it. Okay, again, didn't answer my question as to why enabling GPU would stop me from building code, but okay, fine. Don't enable GUI, I won't do that. Cool. Now the problem is that because I believe my workspace is constantly stuck in GPU mode, I basically cannot build my project at all. Now, I've been struggling with the system monitor project, but I've been reviewing the feedback and addressing it as much as possible. The issue though is that if we look at the last review, so I've submitted the last review and I mentioned, actually even before that, I've submitted my project and there were a few issues. So I was told here, for example, your calculation here is currently wrong. Consider using rather a formula similar to the following, convert your values. All right, let's look. Format.cpp. I followed the advice and used the formula I recommended in order to fix the elapsed time formula. Great. Process.cpp. Here I'm being told basically that I'm just returning the timestamp of a process. And in order to return the actual uptime time of the process, I need to subtract the value from the overall uptime time of the system. Again, I address that here. So I take the uptime of the system and I subtract it by the uptime of the process in order to address that. And to even make sure that I got this one right, I also posted in the community and I mentioned, I have the following code. And I mentioned the review, and I tried doing this and whatever. And here, turns out I had another issue why I was getting negative values. But here, basically, I'm told by Satyajit, which has actually been one of the more helpful mentors, that it seems like I'm doing it right. And here as the accepted answer, I'm told specifically what I'm doing wrong in the uptime function. So this is what ends up fixing the negative value issue. Great. Thank you very much. Now, when I submit the review, knowing that the GPU button is not enabled, and by the way, it's worth mentioning that I contacted support about the GPU button, and this shows you how disconnected everyone is at Udacity. So I'm enable GPU option disappeared. So I mentioned here a bit about my frustrations between the outage and the enable GPU button, blah, blah, blah. I point to the knowledge question that I posted, and yeah, basically I'm hoping for a resolution here. Christopher, thank you very much for writing about this issue. I'm forwarding this correspondence along to our support team. Great, thank you. Waiting to hear back. Greetings from Udacity. Thank you for following up. We had a word with our engineering team, and according to them, the workspaces did not need GPU to run the code. So we converted them to CPU workspaces. I call bullshit on that. I don't think they converted anything to CPU workspaces. I think what happened is that something broke and they lost the option to have GPU. In fact, I currently have GPU enabled. I just don't have a button to enable or disable it. So, and also this doesn't make sense because I was explicitly told in my system monitor project that when I need to run it, to make sure I have GPU enabled for it to run properly. So again, complete bullshit. It really sounds like something they made up because they didn't want to acknowledge that something broke. So here I mentioned a bit more about my frustration. I'm unable to build the code. Again, point to a knowledge question. Mentors were not able to help. Other people are having this issue. It's impossible for me to run the code. Again, I mentioned that I believe my workspace is stuck in GPU mode. In the review, they asked for GPU mode to run the project. Again, mentioned some more of my frustration, asking for an extension. So this person then tells me to fix the issue I have to do, reset data. I did this. It didn't fix anything. Same issue. All it really did was give me backup and all that stuff. So it has nothing to do with the code. I don't think this person really understands what the issue is, probably because they're just not doing the course. So it's not like their fault or anything, but this didn't work. Even though they didn't address my call for an extension, I asked again. I was given that, but that doesn't really resolve the issue. So we're back here. So I address all the issue as I've shown you here, all the issues from the review, Linux parser, everything. So I think we looked at process. So I've addressed this issue as I mentioned, system.cpp. Here's only suggestions. So let's just skip that. Required here, for example, I'm being told that keep in mind that you're supposed to traverse files that contain several lines. So I should use this pattern. Again, I'm not really told why I should use this pattern, just that I should use it. So I'm like, okay. So I go ahead and use a similar pattern with a while loop, as you can see here, and seems fine. Even though I'm not really explaining this to if what I originally did was right or wrong, because I seem to get values that made sense. But whatever, I follow the required suggestion. Now, when I resubmit my project over here, so I mentioned I was not able to run the project because I can't build it because of the fact that enable disable GPU button is gone from the Udacity workspace. They still haven't fixed the issue since Thursday, so I figured I'll submit it anyway. I hope it works. The reviewer, and again, I understand that they might not be aware of all the issues going on. I'm sorry, but the metrics for a couple of processes are still off. Kindly apply the suggestions from the previous review, and you may also test it in your local machine. So I applied the suggestion from the previous review. I don't know what happened there. Metrics might still be off. I'm not told why. And over here, it says you may test on your local machine, but I can't test on my local machine. I'm using a MacBook. And when I signed up to this course, I was told that I would be given a Linux virtual environment in order to run the Linux specific projects. So, again, can't really run it on my local machine because this is a Linux specific project, right? The virtual monitor. Here, I do understand your concern with GPU. Not really. If you need additional GPU hours, please submit the request via this form. It's not a GPU hours issue. I'm nowhere near running out of GPU hours when I had it. In fact, there's no such thing as GPU hours right now. It's that the GPU option is completely gone. So it seems that no matter how I try to explain this to the review team or to the support team, nobody really knows what's going on. So I haven't made any changes to the project because the changes that I showed you, I've addressed exactly as per the review. So all I'm going to have to be able to do right now is just submit the same project again. I've confirmed that this zip file has all the changes necessary. And I'll write this later. I'll mention to the reviewer. I'll even point to this video. I'll mention to the reviewer that I've addressed the concerns, but I really hope, I've been basically stuck on this project since the beginning, so I really hope someone from Udacity is able to help me out this time, and I really felt like a video was the only way I could get all this information across, because it seems that no matter how much I try to explain it in writing, nobody seems to understand it, and everyone gives me a copy-pasted response that they're supposed to give, so nobody's really trying to fully acknowledge the issue here. Thank you very much.